6, 7, 8.
Check, check, check.
I was just thinking.
All right. Yeah. What's that?
I was just thinking. You were just kind of beatboxing. I wouldn't say humming, but you were just beatboxing. I have to say, what is one of the most iconic songs from my childhood, and it just now occurred to me.
Yes, Muppet Show.
No, that was not the Muppet Show. Although it's very similar.
Dating game.
Also similar. Now that I think about it.
Did you ever? The Newlywed Game was like 70s adult film style music.
Almost.
Yeah, it was. It was close enough.
You know what was better, and I wish they would bring back. I think it would go very well these days. And
Tell me.
They've got these overproduced game shows now, where they're spinning the guy around and he has to answer
God,
questions.
dude,
that one your kids made me watch.
Don't get me
when
started
I was watching
on
them.
Game of Games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring back Match Game. Just get some Hollywood stars drunk and have them guess the word.
Now
that the contestant
that's got to
is
be hosted by Jimmy Carr in England.
Yes.
Have you seen that? Oh, that dude cracks me up.
See, that
you know
would
what
be
else
fun.
cracks me up?
What's that?
Not this subject we're going to be talking about because it's kind of, I won't say depressing. Is it?
Some people use alcohol. Some people use drugs. Go ahead and pop that open. Some people use morbid humor. We always talk about gallows humor, trying to deal with stress in the three disciplines.
Yeah.
That was kind of my way of easing everybody into talking about line of duty deaths.
Well, actually,
did it work?
To be fair, we should talk about this is not about line of duty deaths. It's about preventing line of duty deaths. And we're going to have a board member from below100.org, Mr. Rod Rifredi, who we learned a little something about, and you'll see it in the episode here.
We did.
Or hear it if you're listening. This is also going to be on the tube of you. He's going to talk to us about the tenets for below 100. And the goal of their organization is to get line of duty deaths. And this is law enforcement specific for their statistics side of things.
Correct.
Right?
But as we'll hear,
yes,
this is encompassing all the disciplines.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's cut to it. Let's get to our interview with Rod Rifredi from the Below 100 Foundation. Welcome to What's Your Emergency, Mr. Rod well, I can't say Officer Rod Rifredi because he is one of the special ones. He's retired now, and we'll get kind of his background and his bio here in a moment.
On that, sir.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And fairly recently, if I'm not mistaken. Rod, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So I have to bring something up very quick, and if you're listening to this on the radio, guys, you really need to go over to WYEradio.com and watch the video portion of this interview because retired Officer Rifredi, he's got a fire altar behind him there.
Yep, right there.
Real quick, before we get into the meat and potatoes of all this law enforcement jibber jabber walkie, Rod, is there any special meaning to all that stuff on the wall behind you?
Yes, there is. I actually I've walked all three disciplines, lucky enough, and spent 13 years in the profession, in the fire service profession, not including reserve time.
That's great news. So we're not just going to be talking about law enforcement specific stuff today. We've got somebody who, like he just said, has walked in all three shoes, which, let that sink in, not easy.
Not wearing three shoes at the same time?
Yeah. So Rod,
I can't be.
So Rod, you are with the Below 100 Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Below 100 is a grassroots organization, and our goal is to reduce the line of duty deaths nationwide to less than 100 a year. And we're doing that by the low-hanging fruit. Everything that we talk about in our group, we control. We don't require a letter from a chief officer, commissioner, whatever you want to call them. Every day you get in your car, you decide that you're going to slow down. Every time you make contact with somebody, you decide you're going to do it slow and thoroughly. You're going to wear your vest. You're going to wear your seatbelt when you're driving.
Yep.
Our two big ones really are what's important now, constantly thinking about what's important now, and not being complacent. Because when you're complacent, you're just open to all other threats.
Now, when you talk about this Below 100, I hear about it a lot in the law enforcement world. Are you also targeting fire and EMS with these laws, if you will?
We have a lot of talk about that, and we get that. So I've been involved with Below 100 since 2012, and pretty much every time I do a class, and I've taught in 35, 36 different states, and every time I do a class, I always get the, hey, what about the fire guys? What about the ambulance guys? Do you have anything for that? And it's a matter of sitting down. I've been out of that profession for 20 years. So I'd have to sit down with someone who's actually in it now and kind of what's the trends going on now. We all know Gordon Graham. Gordon Graham is with our organization quite a bit.
Gordon Graham here.
Yeah.
I've seen those
he's always
videos.
got some great ideas, you know. But somebody who's actually in the seats today that can give us what the trends are going on, we would love to expand out in that direction.
It's unfortunate we don't know anybody that.
Let me talk to some folks. Let me see if I can find somebody. You know,
if they're out of the recliner long enough to talk to me, that'd be
great.
Yeah,
we made it a full 4 minutes before shots were fired. Well done.
Well done. What's important now?
Is the chili done? That's important.
That is important. But no, you know, the most important thing you said is wear your seatbelt. And on your website, you've got the big stuff, you know, wear your belt, wear your vest, watch your speed, what's important now. And I was asking MC before the show because it says wear your belt. And I immediately thought like gun belt, like bring your gun to the knife fight kind of a thing. But the number one most important thing for anybody in any discipline is wear your seatbelt. It's amazing that we go on all these wrecks and we're meeting people who are injured or dead because they didn't wear their seatbelt. Yeah. And yet here we are not wearing it because why?
If I can jump
in. On our chest.
Yeah. If I can jump in real quick.
What if I get ambushed?
Oh my God. I get on my little soapbox anytime I teach.
Are you standing on your little soapbox right now?
No, I'm not that short. Good Lord.
Oh.
You're just taller than me.
Well, I'm sitting down.
You are sitting down. Shut up. Damn. Anyway, I'll get on my soapbox and I will tell recruits in the academy or guys I teach in basic collision, and I'll go on like a 5-minute jag about wearing your seatbelt. Mm-hmm. Having been to 25 police officer funerals in the last 13 or so years, I can't go into them anymore. We've talked about this at length, but when I follow ODMP, Officer Down Memorial page, right? Anytime I see somebody has passed because it was a solo vehicle collision, I automatically go to, God dang it, man. Why weren't you slowing down? We are so easily hijacked by adrenaline, and I mean, driving fast is fun. I'll absolutely admit it.
Yeah.
But if we slow down and if we wear our seatbelts, I actually had, and I won't name names, but there was an administrator,
name a name,
who said, I would refuse to wear my seatbelt because I don't want to get ambushed. And I about came out of my skin. It was real tempting to say, you're an idiot. And that's actually what I will tell people in these classes. I said, I'll tell you right now, if you're not wearing your seatbelt, you're a moron. And worse, you're a hypocritical moron, because you're citing people for not wearing a seatbelt. So if you're not wearing it, you shouldn't be allowed to cite for it because you're an idiot.
Yep. And
there's
no reason on the EMS or the fire side either, guys. Now, patient care in the back of the ambulance is still a little complicated when it comes to seatbelts.
I get that,
but
that's understandable.
That's when we're gonna try to take, just try to take stock of what we're doing. But Rod, I want to talk about what it is that Below 100 is doing. You talked about classes you've taught in, most states of the union, not including Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands.
Have you been to Puerto Rico or Virgin Islands? Because
we have been to the Virgin Islands. Not me personally. I get to go
not him personally.
Like Iowa.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to go to Virgin Islands. Send me to Cedar Rapids.
Yeah. Share with our audience what it is that Below 100 is doing specifically to try to reach out to the first responder community and keep us alive.
So we come in, first of all, we're a volunteer organization. We don't get paid a dime to teach these classes. All the money that comes towards us just pays for a hotel room, flights, and lodging, that type of stuff. We come in, we do a 4-hour class. We cover the 5 tenets in 4 hours. And then we'll come back in the afternoon and do like a train-a-trainer, or it's kind of evolving more into how to implement this program into your agency type of stuff. And again, we've maintained being very contemporary. When we started in 2012, ambush was not a thing. Ambush is now a thing. Recently, I lost one of my former officers that to a horrible situation. So we're addressing that. We're also starting to address wellness, taking care of ourselves, physically, mentally, getting sleep. I'm delving into it pretty deep right now, of the importance of the thing called sleep. Now, I'll tell you, since I retired, I discovered sleep. It's awesome. I highly recommend it.
I'm a big fan myself.
Yeah. So on the EMS side, we talk about recovery. You can do a 24-hour shift and get your head kicked in, but you can't go back to work for 48 hours. You need that time to recover. So if you go in and get your head kicked in for 8 hours, you shouldn't go back to work for another 16. So we're looking at not necessarily the sleep and the rest, but the recovery, a chance for you to download, to not be looking like MC always talks about, looking at everybody's hands, looking at all the angles, but to be able to come back, downshift, and get some sleep. It's not just sleep, it's restful sleep. You need to be able to actually turn everything off, not where you're tossing and turning and, I was in bed for 8 hours, that'll work. That's not helping us.
That's not rest, yeah.
We also talk about the importance of maintaining a balance between law enforcement friends and non-law enforcement friends. Get out of the realm when you're off duty. Because when you're on duty, who do you talk about? Admin. And it's never usually not good. and it's a very, draining situation. And then you get off duty, and if you just hang out with the same people, all you're going to do is talk about admin and the people you deal with at work that are on the negative side. So that's a way that we're not recovering the mental health aspects. And we just start down that tunnel, and you don't stop.
Do you think it's kind of a chicken and egg situation? Is it that we need to get these folks healthy before they follow the tenets, or can we kind of throw it all together and give them the tenets, which might lead to them thinking more about their health?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, and there's our show.
Right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We just solved all the problems.
All the problems. No. So originally our class was developed towards the veterans, someone who's got 2, 3, 4 years in the car by themselves that would understand what we're talking about.
Four-year veteran, the ones I see on TV?
Yeah.
4-year veteran?
The ones that are making the headlines?
Yeah.
Yeah. And not in a good way.
Exactly.
So now we're really starting to get into the academies. We're front-loading this information and trying to get them to understand that cultures change. And really, that's what we're about, right? We're about a culture change. We don't need to not wear a seatbelt so we can jump out of the car and go in a foot pursuit here in California, go in a foot pursuit with the guy that we know has got a dime bag on him, so we can catch him, give him a ticket and a stern warning,
and send him on his way.
He's going to get another ticket.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the reason you're putting yourself at risk not wearing a seatbelt, is because maybe you might have to chase somebody. And you mentioned ambush, which is definitely an issue these days that we're looking at. But is the seatbelt making a difference, or is it sitting in the car and not thinking about your surroundings? Is it not situational awareness that's doing it? Who knows? It's very easy to knock down these reasons that people like to throw at the wall for not wearing a seatbelt. That's
right. I would get the ambush issue. Now, I spent some time in the Marine Corps, and they told me, this was many years ago, if you're caught in an ambush, get out of there. It wasn't jump out of the car, do the TJ Hooker slide across the roof, find out where your target is, and return fire.
Hang on.
Pedal on the right side. I know.
We went in the Wayback Machine.
We cannot let a TJ Hooker reference just go.
Was it Heather Locklear?
Yes, it was Heather Locklear. Right. Like she can slide across the
that's
the
exactly
hood of the car.
Where I was going, my friend.
All right.
Yes.
Please continue. I'm sorry.
So we don't do that. We push the pedal on the right-hand side that makes car go, get out of the area, collect yourself, call in the cavalry, and then come back and return, get into the fight. That's not chicken. That's doing our job.
Survival.
That's tactically sound.
And that's something that I'm surprised isn't now you're having to bring this message into the academies now. MC, you've been teaching at the academy a little bit. Is that something they're telling the kids these days, the 4-year veterans coming in, that it's okay to run away and survive?
What's funny is my experience has always been that if you get the 4 or 5 year guy, he's still a bit of a knuckle dragger. He wants to be the guy kicking the door in and, kicking ass and taking names and raw. And there's a time and a place for that. I'm all for it, but don't be an idiot while you're doing it. Right? Let's increase the odds of our survival. And, you know, Rod, you mentioned losing an officer recently. And if I'm not mistaken, you're talking about Officer Natalie Corona. Yes. And it with Davis PD. And if I know the circumstances correctly, she was doing all the tenets that Below 100 puts out.
She was.
There. So my point being that, hey, this is a dangerous gig. And sometimes bad things happen. And it's just going to happen. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. What she wasn't doing was sitting in her car on her phone, not paying attention to what's around her. She was out handling business, and it was just done.
And I hear a lot of folks, Rod, they talk about, well, you know, all this stuff happens and that stuff happens. But you mentioned at the very top of the show that the tenets of Below 100 are the things that I can control. The things that I am doing to myself. So I don't want our audience to get off on a jab about, oh, well, the officers in Dallas and what if there's a sniper and everything. We're not talking about that. That is inherent with the job.
Yes.
You know, if I look at
that's why we're below 100. We're not 0. We're below 100 because
being realistic.
We work in a very dangerous environment.
Exactly. And if I go off on a tear about how it's not safe to go in buildings because the ceiling is falling, the first question is going to be, well, were you wearing a helmet? Were you aware that the ceiling was not secure? You know, the things that I can control. And that's what I love about Below 100 and what you guys are really preaching, if I can use that word, is get out of your own head, do these simple things that we know can keep you alive.
God, they really are simple.
And then the rest of the stuff that's dangerous, we can try to train you to deal with that better. But you need to be alive when you get there. You know, there's an interesting stat that came out, I think it was 2015. I'll have to double check and hold me to this, audience, that it was 2015 where more than half of the firefighter line of duty deaths were in transit from either their home or the firehouse to a fire. So we could have actually cut firefighter line of duty deaths in half if we walked to the fire. And I remember thinking to myself, reading that, what are we doing? We're killing ourselves. Right. Would you agree that in some essence, in first response, we're killing ourselves?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll bring this up. So back when I started in 1986 in the firehouse, you'd pull up on a working structure, and if you had flames coming out the window, then you had enough oxygen in that building to breathe. You go in and fight the fire with your coat, your helmet, your gloves, station pants, and boots. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a firefighter, but that sounds stupid.
It was looking back, and unfortunately now we're bearing a lot of my old partners to cancer.
Exactly. And we've got a lot of folks that are coming out with these newfangled ways to beat cancer, but it goes back to what Rod just said.
Yeah.
Right. Back to the 90s, NFPA 1500 came around, and the fire service went, we have to change our culture. And we're still going to drive code 3 everywhere because it's cool. However, we need to change the culture. We need to be safer in how we do it. They put the reflective light or striping on the back of their engines in all their vehicles so they don't get hit on the freeway. They've been wearing reflective gear on accidents a lot longer than cops have because they don't want to get hit by cars working in the roadways. I hate to say it, but they're smarter than we are in self-protection. And it's time that law enforcement kind of catches up to that. You know, Boston PD has been wearing those reflective crosshatch motors, Boston PD motors, for decades. I made a phone call to find out if anyone's been shot in the reflective vest area. It hasn't happened. But in law enforcement, we had the big argument years ago about the triangle of death with the white T-shirts. Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
If you wear a white T-shirt, you're going to get shot in the throat. Well, who did the study? Those guys. What guys? Them. Them who? The ones who did the study.
Can you reference a study? Well, no, I just heard about it.
The plural of anecdote is not data.
Because that doesn't actually exist.
But it's cooler to worry about wearing black shirts and being stealthy all the time.
Well, I don't know if you know this. I low crawl up from the motorcycle to every car I stop. It's very tactical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It does hurt my back a little bit. But that's the sacrifice I'm willing to make to look cool.
The uniform takes you on it, man.
Well, yeah, that's true.
The boots and the helmet too. It's really interesting to watch you do that. But Rod, you mentioned earlier that there are some tenants that Below 100 is doing, and we've talked about those. And you said if only there was somebody on the fire side that could help. Well, I'm going to step up. Hi, Justin.
Hi.
And I'm going to offer some things to the fire side of the audience here. And I want you, being a retired veteran firefighter, to think about this. Wear your belt.
That's a seatbelt, everybody. Not hold up your trousers.
Wear your mask.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wash your gear.
Oh.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, it's the amazing thing. What's giving us cancer on the fire side is breathing in all the crap after the fire.
Right.
Well, and yet some departments are coming out and saying, well, you should put your turnouts in a compartment in the back, after having worn them inside a building where you're sucking down all these byproducts of combustion. We've got all this fire retardant and plastics and electronics and you name it, and we're sucking it in and breathing it out. And then we come out and we rinse off our gear and put it in another compartment and we think we're safe. We're killing ourselves.
Right. Time for change. And I, quite frankly, I think the win in the complacency for fire service is very, very relevant.
And that's the big word, right, MC? Complacency. Complacency kills, I say, on the fire ground.
No, everybody says that. It's starting to become a cliche. If I say the words complacency kills, that means I'm going to be safe now.
You're beating a dead horse.
Right? Yeah, it just becomes something to say instead of an actionable item that you can do every single day. You know, when as an FTO now, and I'm training my trainees to do a traffic stop a certain way, and because if they just kind of, you know, bumble up to the driver's side and, hey, what's going on? No. I mean, as a motor officer, I'm doing way more traffic stops than other FTOs do, just because I want them to know how to do them safely. And I beat it into them figuratively, mostly, about how to conduct.
I was an FTO for years. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you feel my frustration from time to time. Right. So I got a question for you about below 100.
Did you just say below 100?
But below. Are you happy?
So I have a question.
Am I not articulate enough for you?
If I blow a 3.5,
that's a totally different.
Below 100.
Oh my God.
I'll give you a ride.
Do you see what I have to do every single day?
Every day.
When was the last time that we were below 100? How many years has it been? 1940. That is freaking depressing.
Yeah.
That's
quick
math, 76 years.
Let's do it this way. I mean, we've had a great expansion, the post-war expansion in the suburbs. It's fair to say that we've had a significant increase in the number of officers that we're putting out on the field, right? So we are kind of creating, I mean, below 100 sounds great. You could have been below 132, which could be the statistical model which matches, right? But let me ask you this. How did you get to 100? Is it a marketing thing or is there some science behind it?
There's no science behind this. I think that was just a number that we looked at. The group that started this in 2010, 2011. See, this all started with just one simple statement by Travis Yates out of Tulsa, Oklahoma Police Department. And he just says, if we can get cops to slow down, clear intersections, and wear their seatbelts, more of them would go home at the end of their shift.
True. There's your science right there. That is confirmable. Yeah.
So, and I think what they did is they just went, what's a number that will be hard to get to, but is attainable? And that's 100. You know, we've dropped down to 112.
I was going to say, a few years ago, we hit 112, if memory serves, right?
Now, yes. And what we have to do, and we're not doing this to minimize anything, we're pulling out the 9/11 numbers because now we're having, I believe the last year we had 29 9/11 related deaths. Mm-hmm. That was a single incident almost 20 years ago.
With other factors.
Oh my God, that was almost 20 years ago.
Right. So we're changing those numbers a little bit, but if you pull those out, we're getting those numbers down. Is it below 100 doing it? We'd like to think so. In reality, I think we've started a conversation. In the conversation in the police stations, roll calls, locker rooms, at the coffee breaks, of, hey, you're kind of going a little fast, or, you know, I used to poke my chief in the chest every morning because he didn't wear his vest. Hence the reason I retired as hence the reason I retired as a sergeant. But I'd walk up to him poke him in the chest and say, nice vest. And he goes, "What? Who wants to kill me?" Well, I know 62 people and they're all armed, but I digress. But we got those conversations started, and I have a hard time going to locations across the nation. People not going, "Oh, I've heard of your class," and or "I've been to your class." So the big part is the conversation, the culture change, because it's not the same world it was 20, 30 years ago. It definitely is not.
Nope.
No, it's definitely changing. And it's because of, like you said, the conversations that are taking place at morning lineup, at the kitchen table at the firehouse, at the PD when you guys are coming back and sitting in the air conditioning on Thanksgiving and watching football, just like us. That it used to be you would make fun of the kid for wearing his mask until you realized, wow, that kid can do so much more in his mask. Maybe I should be like him. And now that young kid is an officer, making sure that everybody on his crew is masked up and doing their stuff. It seems like what used to be the old tough guy persona about, I'm going to go in and be a smoke eater is now the tough guy persona of, I'm going to make it to 30 years of service and I'm getting out healthy.
Yeah. I want to bleed this county dry in retirement.
Exactly. And that has to be
my class.
30 and 30.
My class, my win. See, I had the wrong win for years. My win was the next stars, the stripes, stars and bars, running that organization or this task force or that task force. And towards the end, it became to become a blight on society through the pension program. And I've achieved that. And it's great. And I'll tell you, nothing is better than after 32 years of every month, the first of the month, I open my little app for my bank and go, "Oh, they threw that money in there again. Awesome. That's a win," and move on.
For the folks out there real quick that are saying, "Oh, you're an every other Tuesday kind of guy," because we get paid every other Tuesday instead of every other Friday. It's a long story. But some people say, "Oh, you're an every other Tuesday guy just here for a check." No. I'm here to do the best job that I can while I am here. And when I'm done, every other Tuesday, bring it on in.
Yeah.
Because the reason they give us more later is because they want to give us less now. So do more with less. Wear your seatbelt. Wear your vest. Focus on what's important. What's important now?
I want to, as we wrap up the interview here, Rod, I want to talk to you about what Below 100 is doing for mental health. You mentioned that earlier in the show and self-care, because the statistics that we're looking at are for, correct me if I'm wrong, line of duty deaths, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Suicides every year outpace line of duty deaths. And I like that, again, if I'm speaking out of school, throw a hand up, but it sounds to me like Below 100 is taking that into account and starting to address those issues as well with, the trainings and the classes about mental health and wellness and having a well-rounded approach to every aspect of your life, not just your professional life. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. We've partnered with Blue Help, who focuses on prevention and honoring of suicides, law enforcement suicides. And they're really getting into education and prevention. But it's one of the first organizations to say, hey, look, generally speaking, the suicides are from PTSD issues. They're from things that we've all seen, things that people just shouldn't have to see on a regular basis. So we have to acknowledge that. There's another organization, and her name's Olivia Johnson. She's a doctor out of the St. Louis area. And she just started a wonderful program. It's called Talk or Text Tuesday. Statistics show that Wednesday is the highest day of the week for suicides. So we all have partners, and we know that they might be going through some rough times or went through a couple of rough calls or something like that. Give them a call or text them on Tuesday. Or if you're that person, reach out to someone on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Make that connection, that personal connection again. Just say, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee. Can we get together? That kind of stuff. And that's something that we're starting to really embrace, because again, that's low hanging fruit, right? We don't need a chief to tell us to have to do that. We don't need a directive. That's just being a human being and taking care of each other.
And over the last few decades, we've heard, and I've heard it, on the fire and EMS side, oh, suck it up. That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
There's no crying in the firehouse.
That is dumb.
Yeah, the guy that's thrice divorced and an alcoholic is trying to give me advice
life
on how
advice?
to handle stress.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, but
Gary.
We've got something on the EMS side, Code Green, which is a group of folks that if you send in your concerns or you're considering self-harm or anything, they will put you in touch with literally a network of professionals who have been in your shoes and just let you chat it out anonymously. And that's the important thing, is if you start to see some of the signs of depression and separation, which I'm sure Below 100 is starting to teach and other organizations are starting to teach, we need to reach out to our brothers and sisters because it is out there and it is killing us. And a lot of people want to turn a blind eye to it and say, well, I'd never do that. Not you, Johnny. It's not about you.
Yeah, it's not about you. And you never know.
You never know when just sitting with somebody.
Yep.
Silent for 10 minutes could make the difference.
I always tell people when they ask me, what do I miss about the job? The number one thing I miss is sitting on the side of the road on a motor with another motor and not talking, waiting for the next ticket, waiting for the next whatever. There's something about that, just being close to somebody who's got the same ideology as you have. You don't have to talk about anything. You look cool. That's got to say that. ABCs, always be cool.
That's right.
However,
speaking my language, man.
However, it's just that connection that you have, that silent connection, and then you see something come by or it's time to go do another area, you fire up and you go. And those are always very cleansing for me. So I always tell people, look for that in your life. Look for it in every job, at the firehouse. It might be when I worked at the firehouse, we'd go to the rooftop at night and have a cigar. And if you didn't smoke cigars, you'd have a soda or a coffee or whatever. But we'd go up there, and a lot of times you weren't allowed to talk. It was our quiet time. It was our reflection time. And it was the best time.
And that's huge.
We all have that opportunity.
It's that mental recovery. We talked about physical recovery and getting enough sleep. And I would also like to point out that the rooftop where they were is technically 50 feet from the front door of the firehouse, where the sign says no smoking within 50 feet.
This was the 80s. We smoked in the firehouse.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, guys. We always touch on it. You're talking about smoking cigars. MC and I are having a beer here. There is a way to release and relax without becoming dependent on these things.
Absolutely.
If you find yourself, guys, that you're sitting down and you're thinking, I shouldn't, but I will, that's the time to reach out. Maybe it's I'm having a bad day. I call up MC and he says, let's have a beer. And he holds me to one. Maybe that's what happens. But the point is, we need to address it. We need to reach out and realize that there's the stigma around this is not saying I'm weak, I'm not okay. The stigma is turning your back on our brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
When we see it coming.
Yeah.
So Rod, thank you so much for being on What's Your Emergency Radio, below100.org. The number 100 is the website. You guys need to get over there. Make sure you subscribe to this show. Share it at Lineup. Hey guys, have you heard about Below 100? Yeah, this podcast, they interviewed the guy talking about it. He's a fireman, retired cop. He wears all three shoes.
We're always looking for someone to host a class. So if you reach out to us, we can figure it out. We have funding through the feds, so it may be for free.
That's wonderful.
I love free. Free is fantastic.
I like free.
It is.
Especially when it's followed by beer. Free. Yeah.
Yes.
That could be a thing.
There you go.
That could bring your numbers up.
All right, Rod. Thanks so much for coming on the show, man. We appreciate your time and reaching out to our audience and providing them with some fantastic wisdom. Thanks for your time. Cheers.
All right. Thank you, guys.
If there's anything else we can do, please let us know. We'd love to share whatever you got for us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Be safe. Cheers.
Thanks.
Retired law enforcement.
Yep.
Retired fire service. Probably went on some medical calls in there. So
definitely. It really sounds like dude couldn't hold a job.
Yeah.
Got
to pick one.
Stay in your lane, dude.
I'm sure he's got the family around, the computer and, hey, I'm on this weird radio show and here we are making fun of him now. But no, there's so many great things in there, MC, that can literally save lives. How many times can you say just convincing a young officer, firefighter, or EMT to wear their seatbelt is saving their life? How simple is that?
It really is. These aren't difficult things to stick to. Wear your seatbelt. Slow down.
Wow.
Wear your vest.
Crazy.
What's important now?
Wear your mask.
There you go.
Wash
Clean
your
gear. Unreal how very simple it is. And we take them for granted.
MC, I don't want to be one of the nerdy officers that's wearing a seatbelt all the time.
I've actually told my trainees, if you don't wear a seatbelt, I will roll your ass right back to the jail.
And that's one of the things is, okay.
Sorry for the
nerd.
word. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Nerd.
Also going to outlive you.
Yeah, I've been
God willing.
laughed at a number of times in my career since the mid-90s for wearing a mask. And guess what? Still doing okay.
Absolutely. There you go.
So below100.org is the website. We want you guys to go over there, get yourselves learned, find out where they're going to be. They might be coming to a department near you.
Did you say learned?
Learned.
Get yourself learned?
Get yourself learned.
All right.
Or teach it.
Not sticklers for grammar on the show here.
No. We deal in the raw survival of our brothers and sisters. Wordology be darned.
Okay. All right.
MC-Lit number 1, I expect you to look up all 3 of those words and give me a definition the next time I see you, because we know she listens to the show.
She does, and now she has homework.
And now think about this. If we take these tenets that we're learning from below100.org and that Rod is teaching us, we are not only going to do them at work, we're going to kind of bring some of that home.
Yes.
And that safety culture. And when you come home and you see the kids and you're thinking, it's no big deal, this, that, and the other, this stuff will wear off on them and everyone will be safer for it. So make sure you get over there, guys. Also, make sure you're rating the show, WYEradio.com. Come on over, subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcasts, whether it be, where are we? We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on all these different places. Make sure you're subscribing to the show.
Absolutely.
Make sure you're giving us a rating. And most importantly for this episode, get over to below100.org and get you learned.
Yeah.
See, I used it twice.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and cut to the bolo, please.
Bolo.
Thank you.
Can you learn our audience about what you're...
Oh, my good God. So I've got some pretty good bolo. I have recently become an ambassador, and I'm waiting for my sash, because ambassadors have sashes, do they not?
Well, you would be a state official.
Exactly. I am an ambassador for the Best Self Journal. This is something I've been using to great success the first quarter of 2019. I achieved all the goals I set for myself, one of which within 5 weeks of starting the Best Self Journal. And the cool thing about it is, long story short, it is a goal-setting phenom, if you will, or if you won't. Either way.
I won't.
All right. But if you sit down and really... do you know who it was that said if you fail to plan, you plan to fail?
Confucius, I think.
I'm not sure that's right.
I think it goes back that far.
It absolutely probably does, because we didn't actually look this up. But the point of this is that if you sit down and plan out your days with your goals, your overarching goals in mind, you will be, wait for it, way more likely to actually achieve them.
So so you're saying that instead of at the end of the day reviewing what I didn't get done, I should start at the beginning of the day with what I want to do.
Yes. And then you sit down and look at what you've accomplished and what you will change for tomorrow. And it helps keep you honest, keeps you on the straight and narrow. I mean, I achieved all my goals and it was fantastic. So I actually reached out to them and said, I want to bring this to my audience. How can I do that? And they said, here's the application to become an ambassador.
So what is it that an ambassador does? Do they ambassador?
They ambassadate.
Do they ambassadate? Oh, ambassadee.
I actually like ambassadate better. It sounds tricky.
It does, right? It sounds complicated.
It does. But what's not complicated is simply going to bestself.co, get yourself a Best Self Journal, and use the code Motorcop at checkout, and you can save yourself 15%.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So bestself.co, Motorcop, and that'll get you. I dare you. I double dog dare you.
Ooh, straight to the double dog.
I triple dog dare you.
Straight to the triple
dog.
To
join me in this challenge of taking 13 weeks and accomplishing stuff that you didn't think was going to be possible. The Best Self has helped me accomplish some things that I thought were going to be and nailed them.
And it may not be a bad idea. You can go on the internet now and get a little rubber stamp made, and you can put on the rubber stamp, for the PD side, wear your belt, wear your vest, slow down, and you can stamp that on every one of your days.
There you go.
So every morning you're looking at it and you see it all the time.
Yep,
maybe you
absolutely.
put it on a sticker. Maybe you get it tattooed on your forehead or something in reverse so you can see it in the mirror.
I wouldn't go that far.
No?
No. I would not. I would not go that far.
That could influence your decision making, though, and that's something that my bolo has to do with.
I think that it would harken back to poor decision making.
It could.
Oh, no, it will.
Overarchingly.
Good God. What is your bolo?
Jeez.
Please.
Chip and Dan Heath have a book that I hadn't read yet.
For a second, I thought
Decisive.
you were going to say Chippendale.
Close.
Either the little rodents or the dancers.
Either or.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you look at Chip and Dale in the cartoons, quick aside here, for Chip and Dan Heath, who are right now saying, is he going to get to the book or not?
No, probably not.
Just wait, fellas. If you look at Chip and Dale, they are dressed as Indiana Jones and Magnum P.I. And I just ruined that for you forever.
It's true.
But no, this gets back into behavioral economics and just learning how people make decisions, telling stories, talking to CEOs, successful people. What was it in your career? What was it that happened where you had to make a decision you couldn't figure out what to do? One of the great stories I'll share just briefly was the CEO and CFO of IBM back in the mid-'80s. They were making data storage components. And they had this idea that should we go into chipsets and processors? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? They were trying to figure it out until one asked the other, if we got fired by the board, what would the next guy do to succeed? They said, well, we would go into making chipsets. Okay. They walked outside. They came back in with a new mindset and IBM.
All right.
So
decision made.
That was easy.
Yeah.
But a lot of those kind of decisions, just fascinating snippets of history. If you wonder why it is we make the decisions we do, you really need to read Chip and Dan Heath's stuff. I love it. Right up there with Danny Kahneman.
They're fantastic.
But Danny Kahneman talks more process. These guys talk more experience. And you read a 2 or 3 page story, and then you move on. So
yeah, I read their Power of Moments last year, and it was one of my favorite books of the year. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, they wrote Drive. It was beautiful. Or no, that was Dan Pink's Drive. Dan Pink's Drive is also very good.
Wow, look at us. We read books.
There you go. So speaking of reading books, guys, you do need to have something on the bedside table. We've said it too many times that readers are leaders. If you don't know what's going on, how on earth are you going to be effective on the job? And especially an episode like today, we talked about that recovery time. A good book can go miles.
It's like therapy.
In you recovering. It is recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it is therapy.
Completely agree.
It's cheap therapy, too, if you got a library card.
Wait for it.
Wait for it.
There's my library card. You can't see it, but yeah. You want to see something funny?
I do.
That's a tactical rabbit.
Let me see. Tactical rabbit.
Yeah. So if you're listening to the radio show and not watching it on YouTube,
why?
I don't know what's wrong with you, but you're missing out on the tactical rabbit. You're welcome.
There you go, guys. So for more hijinks and fun, make sure you're subscribed to the What's Your Emergency podcast. For my buddy Motorcop from here in the MCPD studios, my name is Justin, the Happy Medic. We'll see you next time on WYE Radio.
Cheers.